the one recommendation that I believe will do most to strengthen both WHO and global health security is the recommendation of a treaty on pandemic preparedness and response. That could also improve, as I said earlier, the relationship between member states and fosters cooperation. This is an idea whose time has come.
Andrew Blinchen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The World Health Organization pandemic treaty is deeply concerning. It seeks to give the discredited WHO huge powers over this country and our people. Powers to call pandemics, enforce lockdowns, enforce vaccinations, and decide when any pandemic is over. Can we have an urgent debate on the proposed treaty, which, if passed, will take accountability, democracy and sovereignty from our constituents and hand it over to unelected and discredited bureaucrats? Mr. Speaker, that will be the antithesis of Brexit itself.
Started off yesterday morning.
Okay. Yeah, just about. Otherwise, I'm where we're staying.
I'm Dan.
I mean, before the first lockdown, I was paying attention to all of the data from January 2020 because my wife and I had booked a honeymoon to Asia, so we watched what was happening very closely, and very quickly the stories that we started to see in the media got more and more. The gap between what I describe as the underlying reality and the story grew, and I started to see a really strong disconnect between those points. And for me, if someone's expressed integrity, there was a disintegrity about what was happening.
This was hanging from the original convoy truck in Canada. They hand delivered it for our trip.
Wow, that's amazing.
And of course, where we are now, looking back 4 years on, why we came here to protest what was happening at W.H.O. with the pandemic treaty and the international health regulation amendments is because those documents really capture the spirit and essence of what we went through during the last 4 years, meaning the normalization, legitimization, and even legalization of some of those policy responses, which were deeply harmful.
It's such a spectacular location we find ourselves in, reminding ourselves the beauty of nature and the nature that's in all of us, that beauty, that wonder. And that we carry it with us, because as we were driving through here ourselves, I don't know what came up for you as you came into Miju, this beautiful part of the world. Part of me was thinking tomorrow we go to the rally and there's that fight energy, and it's kind of like, maybe it's just really love that we need to bring to this. Maybe it's just that shift in our thinking and shift in our consciousness that we come and just deliver in Geneva, where all of these powerful institutions are doing their thing, and we come in and do our thing, and we shift the energy, and perhaps we get in, we get out, and things start to change because we change. Tonight we've got some amazing guests. This flag that I'm wearing, you can tell I don't have a Canadian accent. This is one of the original flags, as you can see, well worn, well used. Wow. Canadian Freedom Convoys. Who remembers the Canadian Freedom Convoys? Two of the veterans from that convoy flew to the United Kingdom to be with us yesterday before they flew here. So they flew specifically to London to meet us, to hand deliver this flag as a symbol, as a gesture of our unity across the world.
I'm particularly passionate about challenging these particular impositions because of the risk of repeating what we're going through here. And of course, all the talk about biosurveillance, looking for pathogens, all of these things means we could start to create mountains out of molehills when it comes to any new or variant of something that is discovered by these entities.
Now we have some good news for you this evening. Those two veterans who flew out to see us in London are making their way up from Geneva to come and be with us here this evening.
All of this talk of pandemic preparedness, no one is talking about health, public health, and how we actually improve our well-being. Everyone's talking about pharmaceutical interventions. which is what underpins all of this and the corporate capture of the public health system.
Here's what it felt like in 2020. It felt like 4 people in the world knew something was wrong, and we started kind of reporting on it. And then a bunch of us started going, something's really wrong here. And when we started putting ourselves forward, we lost our YouTube channels, we lost Facebook, we paid a very high price for telling the truth because we knew something was wrong. And then all of a sudden, some bigger names started having courage. Doctors started having courage. And we realized that we weren't alone. And then some truckers in Canada decided that our bodies are, the sovereignty over our bodies is given to us by God and God alone. Amen.
To me, it's a really high risk situation.
Tomorrow you're going to hear lots of talks from the stage about making those statements about freedom, about independence and our right to self-determination and our own autonomy, our own uniqueness, the magic that comes from our own uniqueness, but the beauty that comes from the network and the movement that creates the bonds and the fabric of our own society within this kind of wider network.
I wrote this song for Anthony Fauci. Sad little man sitting deep in a lie. He's dead in his soul, but he'll keep you alive. Do what he says, not what he do, 'cause the truth is for him and the lie is for you. Sad little man, but he's treated like a god. As a faithless prey to a fake and a fraud. Worship the man, pledge to his word. 1 shot, 2 shot, now you get a 3rd. Sad little man, you better run now while you know you can. Sad little man, you don't fool me, you sad little man.
Reggie Littlejohn, welcome Reggie!
I come from the United States to give you my love and my appreciation for all that you're doing and coming out here. I want to warn you about the digital IDs, which are being rolled out from the European Union and the W.H.O. They are mass surveillance and total control. You've got to resist. Never give up, never give up, never give up!
Thank you, Reggie! Thank you so much! And now, my good friend from Israel, the lawyer, Alfred Schwartz. Thank you, Alfred!
Thank you for having all of us here. Keep up the good word and don't let politicians decide what to do with our health. Never, ever. Don't let them control our lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred Schwartz from Israel.
At an interplanetary level, we've got a challenge on our hands to actually really reclaim our sense of humanity, our sense of freedom, but also what it means to live healthily and vibrantly, and how we attain that. So we really came here to Geneva to say no to the W.H.O. very powerfully. And how powerful can you get right outside the United Nations, you know, the parent organization of the World Health Organization.
So many freedom fighters joining together the fight against the globalists here in the heartland, in the heart of darkness, Switzerland. We have the UN right there, we have God, we have the WHO. We have all of them sitting here, destroying our beloved homeland.
Welcome to Geneva, welcome to Switzerland. You are in the international city who is a capital of the world with the most UN agency and specialized programs. You can see here the World Intellectual Property, the International Telecommunication who makes AI for good. W.H.O is doing a treaty to patent all the life of the earth. They just signed a week ago. You have the World Trade Organization, the United Nations. I worked for 2 UN Open Days. So I can speak about WHO, ILO, because the mechanism of WHO and the United Nations is completely corrupted. And
it's a really amazing energy. You've got people from all around the world. You know, as far as Brazil, people have travelled. So the energy is amazing, but you know, it's just a shame that, you know, if you look at 2021, the height of the, you know, the height of the fight, really, you know, the numbers that were out, especially in the UK, but probably all around the world. Just a shame that more people couldn't have made it here today and made the effort to be here. Obviously, some people can't be here for genuine reasons, but come on, there's millions and millions and millions of us around the world, you know?
Because of you, there is immense hope for all of humanity. I also know you've seen some hard times. In the last 4 years, the evil on this planet has shown its teeth. Many of you know people who've been injured and who've lost their lives due to the web of lies, deceptions, and propaganda.
If you go back to early 2020, my concern was there wasn't going to be enough people to stand up and go front line to fight back and push back. But you know, we saw then that, you know, when we got to 2020 in the UK, we had that was the biggest numbers. We had over 1 million people in
21,
London.
yeah.
21, sorry, yeah. So we know the people are there.
We may as well be making this event in Red Square in 1934, or before the Chancellery of Berlin in 1944, or in Tiananmen Square in 1954, because the ambition of Geneva in 2024 is the same. Their ambition is to control the world with a global tyranny and a global religion called sustainability and inclusion.
People are becoming aware, whether it be your 15-minute neighbours, the vaccine injuries, the World Health Organisation pandemic treaty, you know,
the chemtrails, let's be honest, the chemtrails.
Once you burst the bubble, you could burst it anywhere, you know. Once you pierce that bubble of trust in the state, it's burst.
We're here in Geneva, the international capital of globalism. We all sense an impending battle. But do we know who is friend and who is foe? Do we understand our allies as well as our opponents? Simple stereotypes will not lead us to victory. Both sides think they represent the future. Both sides think that they're battling evil to save the world. All involved passionately believe they fight for the common good. On one side, with a sense of noblesse oblige, a transnational elite works to advance a unified, globalized, centralized political and economic world order. A world order based on a command economy rooted in massive databases, predictive artificial intelligence-driven decision-making, and the merging of man and machine to create a new species. Fulfilling this objective is believed to require universal surveillance, propaganda powered by modern psychology, algorithmic censorship, cultural homogenization, and centralized automated economic controls and resource allocation. I believe this will be a digital, technocratic, and bureaucratic hell. I believe that Yeats' rough beast, its hour come round at last, now slouches towards Geneva to be born. And I believe in humanity, and I believe in the divine.
Together, we fought them today that our children have a bigger future, a future in freedom, not in globalist slavery. And thank you for everybody joining the fight against them.
W.H.O! We say no! W.H.O! We say no!
Local people in Switzerland and Geneva have said they haven't had a rally of this magnitude for many decades. This is the biggest rally they've seen for a long, long time. Now, from the people of Britain who've seen millions on the street, it might seem small comparatively, but in terms of the context of what we created here, this was a sizable rally, and it was a sizable international, multinational, people from South America, from the Americas, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, all across Europe. Southern Europe, Eastern Europe, Asia, it's been an incredible experience of international resistance, but it's the first trip on the road to freedom.
Say no to W.H.O.
Absolutely incredible to see the hearts of the people, their willingness to stand for freedom, their willingness to speak out. Amazing. And you know what I think? I think when we make God the center of all of it, we have access to a power that can move mountains. And that's what it's going to take to move this mountain.
Now, unfortunately, they went on to approve the International Health Regulation Amendments late last night. They had a late session at 9 p.m, so that's been approved. So we weren't able to stop that. But if you look at the documents, it's heavily watered down, and that wouldn't have happened without our efforts.
Incredible. What a day. It's not the end, it's just the beginning.
During COVID, I stood for the principle and fundamentals of freedom as a foundation, a bedrock of our society. And I want to align my voice to the fundamentals and the principles and the foundations of peace in the same way in the months ahead. I have a 2.5-year-old son, and the prospect of him growing up in a world of war breaks my heart, truly. So I would like to apply the same force that we brought here. And by force, I mean the peace, the love, the spirit of the world we want to create into the coming months. We cannot ignore this. I know there's different views on all the geopolitics and foreign policy, but that's why I talk about fundamentals. We stood for fundamentals of freedom during the last 4 years, and the invitation is to stand for the fundamentals of peace. I do believe we can live in a world without violent conduct. We can come here across nations, break bread together, have different cultures, languages, backgrounds, perspectives, and despite all that's happening in the world, we can lovingly spend time together. We don't have to agree on everything. And oh my goodness, if we did agree on everything, the homogenous single mind, that's the ultimate dystopia. We should not be seeking that. So there's work to be done. There's division amongst us, it's hard, but at the same time, if we want to live in a world without violent conflict, we've got to be that change we want to see.